Hello and welcome to Movie RX, where I prescribe entertainment one movie at a time. I am your host, Dr. Benjamin, PhD. What does the PhD stand for? Please, have decency. Nothing?
I suppose that works.
Good. As you hear, bringing in for the, I don't know how many times, but my producer is joining me again on the show, the Movie RX producer, Jen. My inspiration is here again. Welcome back, Jen.
Thanks.
So this is a movie that neither one of us had watched until since it was new.
Yes, it is.
Right?
The last time I saw this was in the theater.
Oh, wow. Yeah. See, I've seen it a lot more recent than that, but still it was when it was fresh out on DVD. That I watched this, and this movie actually kind of changed my mind about Johnny Cash.
Oh,
yeah. It was just I wasn't the type to ever go out of my way to listen to Johnny Cash. After watching this movie, it almost felt like I needed to.
So now I have to buy you that record.
Right. Well, something that Jamie and I do a lot is if an artist is struggling with addiction or something like that, and then they get clean, then we'll go buy an album.
I remember you telling me that.
Amy Winehouse, we did, Britney Spears even, and I am not a Britney Spears music fan. But it's just kind of one of those things where if they're making an effort to make themselves better, then the least I can do is to show support that way.
Right.
They're just lucky enough to have that way that I can help support them in their recovery. This movie is also Bonnie Wright, feel good movie. Bonnie Wright played Ginny Weasley in the Harry Potter movies. We know that for real. Jen, you know that because you have the story, so I'll let you tell it.
So, being as we're, big nerds and my love of Harry Potter, we went to Denver. I believe they call it Pop Culture Con because they can't call it Comic-Con.
Yes, that is now copywritten.
Yes. So we went to Denver Pop Culture Con, and I went and stood in her line to get a picture with her and to get her autograph. And while she was signing stuff, I was sitting there talking to her, and I asked her, what is your go-to movie? And at the time, it could change because movies come out all the time.
Right.
At the time, she said that it was Walk the Line. And that actually really shocked me because I don't know. I guess I just don't think of people overseas watching American country music movies.
Right.
But I mean, she did have that button up shirt on with the pearl buttons, so I guess. Yeah,
no, see, that's a cool story. I think it's cool when we find out those silly little things about celebrities that nobody really cares about, but nobody most of the time asks.
Right.
Everybody's all concerned about who's dating who's divorcing who, and who's having kids with who, and it's I don't know. I think it's really cool when we can ask the people in our movies about their movies, the movies that they like and things like that.
Well, like I said, I was not expecting that. I figured it was a movie from,
Hot Fuzz.
Maybe not.
Let's think of the most famous British productions.
Monty Python.
Only because she's British, she can only watch British movies.
I figured we have so many movies over here. So I figured, other countries did too. Why would they?
Hollywood does kind of, invade. I mean, there's so many other places around the world use our movies that they just dub and subtitle and everything. But
I just forget that, I guess.
Yeah. The goofiest thing you'll ever see is an action movie, but in French. I don't know. It's for some reason, it's just funny to me.
Or a love story in German.
Or a love story in German. It ends up coming off like a marriage story or something.
Yeah, where they love each other, but they also sound like they hate each other.
Right, exactly. So, basic movie info on this movie. It's a 20th Century Fox production released in 2005, directed by James Mangold. I've already done one movie that he's directed. That was Girl Interrupted. Did that episode with Jamie. He also directed 310 to Yuma. This movie stars Joaquin Phoenix, Reese Witherspoon, and Jennifer Goodwin.
Can I just say how fun Joaquin's name is?
Joaquin.
It's just fun to say.
In high school, I was a little jerk, and I'd just say Joaquin all the time.
You being a jerk? No.
It got so bad that some of my friends thought that I wasn't even joking. And I'd be like, joking Phoenix. Yeah.
Oh, my Lanta. Sorry, continue.
IMDb description on this movie is a chronicle of country music legend Johnny Cash's life, from his early days on an Arkansas cotton farm to his rise to fame with Sun Records in Memphis, where he recorded alongside Elvis Presley, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Carl Perkins. Kinda. That's a really good synopsis for the first part of the movie.
Yes.
I guess the rest just falls in, I suppose.
Just come along for the Johnny Cash story. There you go.
Or you could just watch the movie for the music. That works too. Next, I kind of go into the initial movie impression. This is like a more technical sort of thing. I'll go first. The cinematography I thought was really great. They had really good utilization of stage lighting and spotlights for movie lights. They used the spotlight quite frequently as a backlight for silhouettes and dramatic effect, things like that, to kind of make you feel like you're really there on the stage with them and stuff like that. They were super creative with the lighting in this movie, and I think that's a big selling point for this movie. Music pretty well wrote itself. it was Johnny Cash mostly. The movie original soundtrack was pretty well what it needed to be, and it kind of took a backseat to a lot of the more notable, I guess, more recognizable tunes.
Yes, for sure. Well, you know me, I listen to a little bit of everything, but I don't listen to a lot of country. But the ones that they played were definitely the ones that I know. But there is one that I was a little sad that they didn't sneak in the credits or something.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, his cover of Hurt.
Oh, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Trent Reznor apparently had said that song doesn't belong to him anymore because it so fit Johnny Cash and his story, and the way he sang it was just so heartbreaking. He was like, it's not my song anymore.
Have you seen the music video for that?
Oh God. Yeah. It'll tear you up.
Yeah, that's for sure one of my favorite songs that he has sung. I know It's not technically his song, but it's still a banger.
The acting in this movie, there's not really much to complain about. I mean, it's Joaquin Phoenix, Reese Witherspoon. What do you expect? Now, what I will say is, and I don't know if this was intentional or not, but there was a huge difference between Johnny Cash singing on his porch and Johnny Cash singing on stage.
Yes.
When he was singing on the porch, even when he was auditioning with that first song, it sounded bad. I don't know if it was intentional, but once he started doing the Johnny Cash persona on stage, then damn, he was spot on.
Well, it's like what the producer at the record label said. I don't believe you.
Right. I love how he took that literally. I don't believe you. You saying I don't believe in God? Like,
Let's just say that he probably didn't get a whole lot of education.
well, no. I mean, of course, we don't want to jump too far ahead.
You tell me when to say things.
But okay. Yeah, the singing was pretty astounding from just about everybody for the vastest majority of the movie. It was just the beginning that was kind of and there were even times that, like, June Carter had a very unique sound. And not to say that she was a bad singer, but she wasn't the talent that her sister was. And so she her very unique sound was it didn't play to her benefit at the time. And there were times that Reese Witherspoon was even able to replicate that. Like the honky tonky song that she did, that she could really like catch that at certain points in that song. And it was like, ooh, wow, that's really close to what it really sounds like, you know?
She cracks me up. Like when she performs, I feel like that's kind of how she is in real life, is just super goofy.
Everywhere June Carter went was a USO show. Like the girl was just funnier than hell. I mean, she said in the movie, like, I had to be funny because Anita was the one with the talent.
And she wanted to offer something.
And she still wanted to offer something to showbiz. And sure as shit, I think she's pretty well the real start of what could be called classic stage stand-up comedy. Yeah, great stuff.
Which is crazy because I feel like it took women had to go through a bunch of shit basically to do any kind of stand-up, because you know how many guys out there are like, girls aren't funny.
Right. Well, I mean, look at the productions that you see. There's so few women on stage for that kind of stuff. But at the same time, you look at those USO shows and you look at some of the greats from that stuff. You know, I mean, that's where Bette Midler got a start, you know, was doing USO shows and that kind of stuff. And I mean, some of those really heavy hitting performers, because they're not singers. They're not comedians. They're not actors. They're just performers because they do everything. And she was definitely that. Probably better at the comedy than the vast majority of the people that she toured with.
Yeah, especially and you see her with the whole running into Johnny and getting stuck on his guitar, and she just, I can keep this funny for like 2 more minutes. Don't worry.
Right. Yeah. God, I mean, this is normally when I go into the character section, but it's like, this story is about Johnny Cash. And then after that, it's about Johnny Cash and June Carter. But the reason why it's first about Johnny Cash is because it's about Johnny Cash and his addiction, and something that came really that became really evident in a lot of those addiction struggles was trauma. I mean, to talk about that, I suppose we should just jump right into the movie. I think right off the bat, you find out, you figure out that his dad's a drunk.
Every time I see that man in something, he is usually an asshat.
That's very accurate.
And every time I see his face, I'm sure he's a nice human being, but I want to punch him in the throat. Like every time he talked in this movie, I'm like, yep, you need a throat punch.
Yeah, and that was Robert Patrick. He was the T-1000. Like, of course,
he was the horror of my childhood.
Yeah, you didn't recognize that he was also T-1000?
I did, but I didn't put it together until just then. But yes, he was the thing of nightmares in my childhood.
Yeah, so yeah, that's why you don't like him. I mean, well, you don't like him because you're not supposed to like him, because he's Ray Cash. Ray Cash was recorded as being quite a douchebag, but I don't know, you can't argue with Robert Patrick's acting in anything he's ever in. but he does a really great job of making you hate him.
Yes.
Very
much so.
Everything from forcing his entire family to do his job for him, picking crops, because whoever it is that is going to come by to pick him up they're going to want what they need or what they were promised, and he doesn't have it because he was too busy drinking,
And he complains about not having money, but he goes to the bar every Saturday and drinks that away.
One thing that I did like from that, though, that you pointed out, is that his mom was really good at setting boundaries.
Yes.
Like, she called him out on his drinking and like, don't be getting on the boys because you screwed up.
And on top of that, she's like, you're not selling my dad's piano.
You're not going to get rid of my heirloom to satisfy your addiction.
Yep.
Which, I mean, first off, at that time, balls in your face. Like, that woman had big old testes to stand up in front of her man, like, at that time, because, I mean, it was just, that wasn't something that was typical at the time. And what I really liked about the very beginning of the movie is, in a very short period of time, they were able to convey to you what kind of connection Johnny Cash had with his older brother, Jack. I mean, it's not unusual at all for, families in that time where the oldest is kind of the star child.
And takes on a lot more responsibility than they should as a kid.
Right. Johnny even asks him, why are you so good? And he just chalks it up to being older and bigger and stronger and all of that stuff. But there was a line that he had said, he made it clear that he wanted to become a preacher, that he needed to know the Bible front and back. And he said, because you can't help nobody if you don't know the right story. I completely agree. Granted, I don't use any of the biblical stories or anything, but people who know stories of hardship and things like that tend to be able to help the people who are, in those struggles.
Well, it's like the main thing with our job.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have the right tools, you could do anything, but not everybody has the right tools.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that's kind of why that stuck with me, is that, if you got the right story, you can help anybody. And yeah, I really dig that. But yeah, so anyway, they're two brothers. They're super, super close. Then it gets dark very quickly.
I had completely forgot. Because it had been so long since I'd seen the movie. But the second I saw that scene come in, I'm like,
yeah,
crap.
The second you see the saw and then you see it malfunction, and kick that wood up, and Johnny goes in and stops the saw. If it's been a decade since you've seen this movie, that will jar you loose and go, oh God, I know what's coming, because it's graphic. Like, they don't show anything about it, except for, when he's laying on the bed, and covered in bandages and things like that.
Can I just say that shop class was horrifying for me? Because my luck, how, graceful I am. I can hurt myself with just like slicing an apple. Like, how many times have you got after me when I have a knife in my hand?
Yeah.
And they trusted like way younger me around power tools,
right?
Like those. I'm like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah. See, I don't think I'd be able to, teach any sort of a class with power, like table saws and things like that with middle schoolers.
Yep.
Not going anywhere near that.
Middle school, I had to use a lot of those tools, and I'm like, you guys are stupid.
Yeah. When Jack goes in to go and do to chop the wood, he sees that Johnny wants to go fishing, and he just gives in and says, you know what, go ahead and go fishing. I'll finish this up. And he leaves. As he's walking home, with his fishing pole or whatever, his dad rolls up beside him in a car. He starts getting on his case. Where you been? and makes him get in the car, and they go to the hospital where he finds out that his brother's dying, and he sits there and watches his brother die. The way that his dad eyeballed him and said, "Where you been?" You could definitely see that he was holding Johnny responsible for what happened to Jack.
Oh, 100%, which is so not fair. And I'm sorry, where was he?
Right.
That's a more appropriate job for a grown ass man.
Right. And that was something that Johnny brought up later in life, which, we'll get to that a little bit later, but he blamed his 10-year-old son?
I think he said 12 when he talked about it later.
But it's like, really? And that is a great point. Like, so when are you going to take responsibility as a parent and not monitoring what your kids are doing?
Well, not only that,
why
but
is your kid going and working for $1 to cut wood to save your ass?
Right. Well, I was just going to say, not only that, like, you're putting blame on little kids, but you're also putting all of that responsibility to make money for the family on your young children.
Right. Which, I mean, we're really bagging on Ray here, but
it's fine. He deserves it.
The nice thing to remember is that Ray did get better.
Barely.
Yeah. Well, it took him a long time, and it was well after he should have gotten better, but he did get better.
But see, like, the way that they ended that, like, you don't know if he actually got better with everyone or if he was just a nice grandpa.
That's probably a good way to soften anybody's heart that's, douchey. But then we start to see, like, after Jack dies, we start to see that there's almost a pointed hatred from Ray Cash to his son.
Yeah, he said that it was Satan that took the wrong son.
Well, yeah, because he was getting on the wrong
son or something.
He was getting on Johnny's case for listening to the radio, and his mom told him, "Hey, knock it off. He didn't do this." And Ray said, "The devil did this. He took the wrong son." I mean, imagine growing up with that. I mean, if he was 12, the next talking point we have, he's going to the Air Force. They skipped over that whole time from the time that he's 12 to the time that he leaves for the Air Force. I couldn't imagine what living in that hell would be like, knowing that your dad feels that way. And you could definitely tell when he did leave for the Air Force what kind of state the house was in. Like, the rest of his family was sad to see him go. They were proud of him, but they were sad to see him go. And his dad just seemed like he couldn't wait to get him off the farm.
And he belittled what he was going to do.
Right. Good on him for getting out of that, because sometimes, yeah, even though you've got family and that's kind of stuck in that, you still have to also think of your own well-being. And that he got himself out, went into the Air Force and bought himself a guitar and learned how to play it. But yeah, after that, he, after his service in the Air Force, he got married, had a daughter, and moved to Memphis. He was pursuing his dreams. He was really reaching for them, and it really seemed like that it wasn't going to happen. Is that kind of what you felt?
I feel, yeah, because I mean, like, his band, they didn't really know how to play their instruments, and I mean, their bass player had the fingering notes taped on the side of the bass.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, he had a rough start, but I mean, I feel like it was rougher because his wife didn't believe in him.
That was really hard to watch sometimes. Like, the few interactions that they had between Johnny and Viv through that whole starting section in Memphis was really painful. I mean, on one hand, you totally sympathize with Viv on being concerned about him, selling stuff and making money to be able to pay bills and things like that. And that her dad had a job for him back home, where he would have a guaranteed job and guaranteed pay. But at the same time, she wanted that more than she wanted him to realize his dream. I don't know that she ever admitted that to herself or to him.
I don't think so. Like, I think she had a right to be worried. Like, it's the same thing I tell you. You do what makes you happy as long as we can pay the bills. Right. After that, I'm good. But right. Like, even when he was trying and getting going, she just never seemed happy with anything he did.
There were a lot of times that it definitely felt like it wasn't ever going to be good enough. And it's funny because it made it really hard for me to think of him as the bad guy when he started to wander. And I don't like that feeling. I don't like not thinking of the guy that's looking at other women. I don't like not thinking of that guy as the bad guy. But seeing how she treated him at home is what made that difficult.
Well, and not only at home, like he called her right when he got off stage and she just didn't even care. Yes, she had kids running around and one of them got hurt, but she sounded like he was a burden even talking to. Yeah.
I don't know. It really kind of sucks because I don't know. I had a hard time feeling bad for her at any point because no matter what he accomplished, she didn't seem supportive. She didn't seem happy. And I hate to say that it came off as ungrateful because I highly doubt that somebody would be ungrateful about the life that he was able to give her and half of everything when she left. It's kind of hard to not be grateful for that. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't feel like she put enough into the relationship in order to make him feel like he was supported. That is essential when he's pursuing his dream.
Well, and to her credit, she was at home with the children and taking care of them. But I mean, she didn't have to work. They could probably hire some assistance, and it looked like there was often family around to help her.
Yeah. What was that?
At one point, it was his sister.
Yeah, his sister was there. That's the whole thing, is not to her credit. They had a support system and she wasn't alone. I would be a lot more sympathetic, I think, if it felt like that she was there alone without any sort of help and he was just out on tour all the time. But it sounded like he was on tour for a couple of weeks at a time, and then he was home for a while, and then he was on tour for a couple more weeks at a time, and then he'd be at home for a while. And yeah, maybe being home for a while is only a few days, but I mean, he's doing the best that he can.
He has to go on tour in order to make the money to provide the lifestyle that she wanted.
Right.
And
he was doing it.
Yeah.
he was kicking ass and taking names at it.
He even volunteered to he's like, I think I'm going to call whoever it was and see if I can push the dates back. Yeah. And then she started talking about the letters.
Yeah.
And then got mad at him for talking about the tour.
Yeah, that was a little unfair. Like, I'm going to bait you into this conversation and then I'm going to chew your ass for talking about it. Like,
yeah. And it's not like he was, searching through those letters and reading those letters. He's like, dude, don't even pay attention to them. Don't open them. Just don't even bother.
Right. Which I really love later on the change in the checking the fan mail, how he starts looking for the ones from various prisons and jails and things like that, and reading that stuff. That stuff's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
it was a neat change after a bright and sunshiny part of the movie. But yeah, so you got this guy that pursues his dream after the Air Force, and he's doing a great job. He gets into the audition, plays the same old tired tune, and the guy tells him, has a come to Jesus moment with him about gospel music and the reality that it doesn't sell anymore, and told him, if you're dying in that gutter and you could sing one song, what would it be? Is it going to be that, or is it going to be something else? And then that's when he sings in Folsom Blues and lands the label, gets on the tour and starts making all of that money. And his wife still isn't happy. Before that, she just wanted him to sell some appliances, like, come on now. I don't feel bad for her. I feel kind of bad for Johnny Cash, but then I also want to call him a son of a bitch.
Right.
Well, because he goes on tour and then he meets June Carter, like the June Carter, the one that he's been listening to since he was, God only knows how young. This woman was made to be his main squeeze.
Made to be his main squeeze.
Well, yeah. I mean, the kid obsessed over listening to that girl sing on the radio his whole life. And then he finally meets her, and then he starts performing with her. Like, they clearly have a connection, like from the very first time they talk. And how convenient is it that she is at that time going through a divorce? Like, or just coming out of a divorce.
But he gets a little stalkery.
Yeah, he does.
That's cringy.
Leaves a little bit of a nasty coconutty type aftertaste in your mouth.
You missed original.
Why do they have to add the coconut? I prefer the original.
Now that's a TV show. You got after me.
It is a TV show. But yeah, while they're on tour, when she's like, when they're starting to figure out that a little bit of electricity that they have between them, Johnny makes a push. That was actually a really great scene because she gave him a copy of Khalil Gibran's The Prophet. That's a really good book. I had no idea that would have been something on June Carter's radar at all. But yeah, anyway. But he tries to kiss June, and June shows why he is attracted to her.
Yep.
Because this is something that any little boy who grew up with a strong mom knows, is that you have to look for strong women. You can't have women that you can walk over. And she sure put a stop to it. Like,
twice.
Boom. Here is your boundary. And you're not going past it.
Well, and she didn't do it in a rude way. She's like, I'm going through some stuff. This is inappropriate.
Right. And then when he tried it again, she's like, what did I just tell you? Like, she almost got on his case like a 5-year-old. So, but yeah, I mean, she really enforced her boundaries, and she wasn't going to back down from him. And that, I think, is why Johnny Cash was so attracted to June Carter, was because she was a strong woman that wasn't going to be walked on.
And then he went and watched boys blow things up. And then he
went, because he got shot down, he went and did the angsty teenagery thing and started blowing shit up.
And that's when trouble started.
Yes, it is. Because Elvis showed up along with, the rest of the crew, and they've got Dexedrine, which is an amphetamine. It's a prescription pill, and I don't know, it's possible that a few of them had that prescription, but I'm damn certain that they weren't prescribed to take 2, 3, 4, 5 pills at a time. So they were getting high is what they were doing. And drinking, taking Dexedrine and drinking.
And blowing things up.
Like, horrible combination of shit here.
Can I just say that I love that whole little thing with, does your wife know you like to blow things up? And he's like, why do you think I married her?
Right. But yeah, when he gets into that pill popping thing, then I mean that pretty well, that starts a decline. And it's very, very slow. It's very insidious in this movie, but it amplifies. And you can actually see the levels of amplification as he spirals into oblivion.
Well, and a majority of the time that at least in the movie, that he starts popping those pills is when he's having issues with June.
Right. Well, and that's how it starts. It starts when he's, frustrated and having big emotions, but then that's when the addiction takes hold, and then he just starts taking it all the time. And then he has to take it to feel normal. After they take a big long break and everything, they get back on tour, and he falls deeper into addiction, where he needs to have those pills regularly, several times a day, just to function as a normal person would. And by doing that, he alienates a lot of people. Of course, first off, his wife, because he's nothing but tired when he's home, absolutely exhausted. His kids look like they're afraid of him because he doesn't look human anymore.
I don't know if they're so much afraid of him, or if they thought that he was like sick
or something. Yeah, because he didn't look well.
No, God, no.
He was pushing away even the people in the tour and things like that. Because that was the tour that he was doing. Like, it was him backing the tour. He was providing the venues and the publications and all of that stuff. He was taking care of all the front work, and he was doing it, quote unquote, as a favor for June so that she had work.
And because he missed her.
And so he started this whole tour, and then his addiction gets deeper, and it gets so bad that he almost makes his heart explode by taking so many pills. And I don't remember where that was. Was that Texarkana or was that Grand Ole Opry? I don't remember which.
Texarkana was the bomb and the kisses.
Oh, right.
I don't remember where that. Oh, it might have been because he
kicked the light.
Yep, when he kicked the light and he kicked the drum set and all of that.
And then he collapsed because he damn near made his heart explode.
Yeah, that was at the Opry.
Okay. And so, he wasn't allowed back there after that. That was his first opportunity there, collapsing on stage in the middle of a performance. They closed the curtains, and even his band, even the Tennessee Three, come to him and say, dude, here is a plane ticket. Go the fuck home. Yeah,
they said it was canceled, and he said, according to who?
Yeah, because he's the boss, right? Yeah, well, there's no show if there's no band.
Right.
And they told him to get his ass home and to take care of himself. He doesn't have much of a choice, but June took his pills, so he didn't have any pills. And he's, of course, going to figure out a way to do it. Well, you've got a man that's got more money than the Pope at this point. So his resources are through the roof. He just goes to Mexico and buys a bunch. He had, when he got busted at the border, he had over 600 pills of Dexedrine and over 400 downers of some kind. I don't even remember what they were, but the guy had over 1,000 pills. And he got busted at the border. How fast do you think somebody would go through that? He was going through that stuff like it was nothing.
Well, yeah, because when he first took it, like, you saw them pour, not like say, hey, here's one. They poured them in the hand and took all of them. Yeah,
they weren't handing him pills like you hand somebody, a medication. They were sharing pills like they were fucking Skittles.
Yeah.
Like, it just, good God.
They're tasting a different kind of rainbow.
Right. So he comes back with all of this stuff, gets busted. Then you think, okay, so he just had an opportunity to quit. And he just had an opportunity that everybody around him is telling him, you need to get help. You need to clean up. You need to figure your shit out, man. And he doesn't do it. Instead, he goes to Mexico, gets more illegal drugs, brings him back, gets busted on his way back in, and here's another opportunity for him to learn, right?
He needs someone to push him.
Yeah. He doesn't learn. And instead, the spiral continues. He loses his family. He and his wife get into a physical altercation. Luckily he didn't seriously physically injure Viv. Scared the shit out of her and his kids. So, luckily nobody was seriously hurt or anything. But yeah, he got into a physical fight with his wife over a picture.
But it was a picture of June.
It was a picture of June, which, yeah, but still, like, he got into a physical fight with her over a picture, and she started that fight over a fucking picture. Like, it's
to be
so
fair, if you
me.
start hanging pictures of other women in this house, we're gonna have some problems.
Well, I don't have any other pictures of other women to hang in the house. But either way, like, seriously, the whole thing with it is that she could have taken that picture and she could have been like, instead of smashing it on the counter, which she knew was going to elevate the situation. Did she honestly think that she was going to smash a picture of June Carter and that Johnny Cash was just going to be like, oh, I guess I'm wrong? Like, that's not how that works. You start smashing shit, people are going to get pissed.
They were both at fault.
Right.
Him more so, but he was also under the influence of things, and stuff just got escalated. Yeah. Things just got escalated, and
so in one afternoon he loses his family. Then he walks from Memphis to, I don't even know where June Carter lived, but it wasn't the same town. Walked to her house, to try to talk her into going out on tour again and all this other stuff. And she, again, rock star boundary setter, boom, nope, I'm not going. Like, you get yourself better and you get well, and we'll talk about going on tour again. So he wanders off and face plants in some dirt in the middle of a rainstorm, wakes up and finds himself a new house.
Well, and like when he was talking to her, he's like, well, I'm on a love walk. And she's like, great, love yourself.
Right. That didn't even go anywhere close to landing where it needed to. Like that hit every part of the target around Johnny Cash and nowhere where it needed to hit.
He was too high for it to hit any kind of reasonable.
Any kind of nerve. Yeah. So again, he was just high as shit, out wandering the woods, found a new house, bought it, not terribly far from June. That's probably good for him. But after he gets this house, he, makes a phone call to June and he convinces her that he's trying to get better. He's not. You see that he's just hiding it better, especially when they have Thanksgiving dinner. His family shows up and June and her family show up. So he's got his parents there and June and her parents are there.
And her kids.
And her kids are there. And so it's like, well, that's great. His dad comes in and immediately starts jumping his shit about things,
A tractor.
Like, he's telling his mom about how much of the property is his and, talking about the property. His mom says, I'm proud of you. The first thing his dad said is, what's going on with that tractor over there? Oh, I was trying to pull a stump with it and it got stuck in the mud. That's how you treat your nice things, is, to leave them in the mud. It's like, seriously, man, just like back off for a second.
Well, and it's Johnny's tractor. It's not his. Why does he care?
Right. Because he'd have killed to have one. His dad really pisses me off so much of the time that you see him.
I told you, he's a throat punch kind of guy.
Yes. But the nice thing about that whole thing with Thanksgiving is that is where he didn't do it in a healthy way, but Johnny finally confronts his dad about a trauma that he's been living with for his whole life.
Well, and when you hold something in for that long, like, it's going to come exploding out, especially if you have no kind of awareness. It will explode, and you should never just sit there and hold that stuff in. And that's what happens.
Yeah. And it came exploding out on his dad. His dad wasn't very nice when he was talking about it. When he came back with his retort, basically telling his own son that he's nothing.
Well, if Johnny Cash was nothing, his dad was a whole hell of a lot less than nothing.
I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, you're telling a guy that has gone literally from nothing, a poor farm kid in Arkansas, to making a huge music career overnight. Like nothing.
He did that as a last resort because he was going to lose his freaking house.
Right. That whole confrontation, though, that ended that holiday. Johnny gets up and goes out and starts riding the shit out of that tractor. He's about to break the damn thing.
He was burning some stuff up for sure.
Yeah. And he's yelling at the tractor and all kinds of crazy shit. He is high as an asshole, and his parents leave.
His dad just shook his head.
Yeah. Yeah. Just shook his head at his kid. Didn't stop to think that
he caused that.
Maybe somebody should go talk to him, or something like that. Like, I mean, I think that even a poor dad, like, I don't mean poor dad as in like a dad with no money.
Right.
Like a dad who's not a very good dad. Even a poor dad would be like, maybe I should go talk to him because they would feel like it's their responsibility. But this guy, I think he was running from it. I think he was running from the fact that was a direct result of the way that he treated his son when he was younger. Awful, awful, awful stuff. Yes. But then the Carters leave. They get ready to leave. And then they don't leave because they tell June, you need to go do something about your friend. And she does. He rides the transmission all the way down into the river, and she jumps into the water and pulls him out and gets him up on the shore. And that's when the heartbreaking stuff happens. And that's when he says, you should have left me. that was where he hit it. That was the rock bottom. Not rock bottom enough for him to get clean, but that's why the Carters stuck around. You find out that it's not just June, that it's her whole family. But yeah, they stuck around to help him get clean and stay clean.
Well, and
his drug dealer showed up and was met with a fucking with a double barrel shotgun held by Ezra Carter and telling him to get the hell out of here.
Hey, Maybelle had one too, dang it.
Yeah, she was right there backing him up with a shotgun, like, yeah, that's awesome.
And can I just say, like, the Carters were his found family.
Yeah.
And they only knew him as a guy that was kind of a troublemaker, but they stayed with him. His own family, who knew all of his history, just left.
Yep. And it's sad, but it's also uplifting. Like, these good people that saw that somebody needed help and that he wasn't getting it from the place where most people would get their help. And so they stayed to offer it, and it helped. Like, go figure. Right.
Who'd have thunk?
So yeah, they help him in getting clean. They chase his drug dealer off and they let him go through the withdrawals and all of that stuff. And before long, June's waking him up in his bed and with a bowl full of raspberries. All he feels is gratitude. He just wants her to stay there because she was there for him when nobody else was. The trouble with it is that when he woke up sober and he woke up clean and all of those withdrawal symptoms were gone, then he had no choice but to face his trauma. He had to remember the things that he and his dad said to each other. He had to remember all of that stuff, and he had to come to terms with it. And he fell into despair, which unfortunately is very easy for recovering addicts to do. When they're trying to come back from it, they hit a wall of despair where it just feels like nothing is going to work for them. It's really hard to stay on a path of recovery when that happens. Now, this is so long ago that recovery isn't even a concept at that time. It's just, get your shit together instead of getting high,
It's that whole rub some dirt in it. Stop your whining.
Yeah. Bootstraps bullshit, but he does. As he's facing it and working through it, they've got a camera on him in this movie. I don't know how it went in that bedroom for real, but in this movie, he talked himself through it. And then when he came to that melancholy conclusion, June was there to tell him that that's not the case. You're not nothing. You're not nothing. I don't know. She told him like 3 or 4 times, you're not nothing.
Well, and I like how when he was sitting there going through it and saying, I've done bad things, she didn't like sugarcoat it. She wasn't like, oh no, you're okay. She said, yes, you did.
Well, and he told her, I treated you like shit. And she didn't. Well, that's okay. That's one of the biggest things that I hate, when people are finally starting to try to, fix those things in themselves. When people tell them, don't worry, the horrible things that you did to me didn't affect me.
Right. Because that gives them
bullshit.
Yeah, that gives them less of an incentive. They're like, well, if it wasn't that bad,
Right. Well, and not only that, but it also feels like they're just discarding the effort that you're making to make things right. I'm here to tell you that I'm sorry for the bad things that I've done. Oh, don't worry about it.
It can also belittle the relationship. Like, oh, you don't mean enough to me for it to have affected me.
Right. So I like how they depicted how she handled it, where she just simply accepted it. And that's awesome. That's really good modeling there.
And like with Vivian, when he would try to make things better, she would sit there and be like, well, you did this to me and you did this to me. And June would just be like, yeah, you did some bad stuff, but you're not a bad person.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. And then after all of that, then it seems like he really does get better. And what we would call today is a path of recovery. He starts to focus on helping others at that point. And so he starts reading his fan mail from prisoners, lots of them from Folsom and some of them from other prisons and jails around the country and things like that. And then he gets this idea to go and play for them, to play a private show at a maximum security penitentiary. His publicists don't like that.
I like how he just cut them off and be like, you could talk to me. I'm right here.
Right. They were talking over him, and he wasn't like, I mean, he was the one standing in the room, you know, and yeah, they were having a whole conversation about him like he wasn't there. They made a good point though. Like, well, not them, but Johnny Cash did when they told him, you know, hey, your fans are Christians. It's good Christian folks, and they don't want to hear that you are going and singing to a bunch of murderers and rapists, trying to make them feel better. He straightens up and stands up and walks towards the table, and he says, then they ain't real Christians then. And it's like, okay, that is cool. Like, dressed in all black was pretty cool. But then once he came off that railing and dropped those words, they ain't real Christians then. That was the ultimate cool right there.
Well, and that's what June was fighting with through the whole movie. Like that rude throat punch lady in the freaking store.
Right.
I'm surprised your parents even still talk to you. I'm like, talking about how divorce is an abomination. That lady was an abomination. Just get out of here.
Yeah, that's, especially at that time, you could see how it was starting to change, because she walked into that store and that first couple that she met knew just as well that she was divorced, but they were still perfectly happy to meet June Carter because she's June Carter and super friendly lady. And they were really happy. And then the next lady doesn't really have much nice to say to her.
Well, and unless you're around that relationship, you have no idea what's going on. It's none of your business.
Right. Like when you look on the relationships in this movie, you start to see some reality with a lot of different things. First off, how old was he when he got out of the Air Force and got married to Viv?
He had to have been young.
Like when him and Vivian got married, they were both young. They both got married before their brains were done developing. So, of course, by the time they were in their mid-20s, they were going to be completely different people. They didn't belong together anymore because neither of them was with the person that they married, because neither of them were the person they were when they got married.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have no idea what that's like.
But it would be the same thing with June and her first husband, and likely probably a part of her second one. But no matter what it was with the second one, it ultimately had to do with the fact that the universe and the cosmos had destined June Carter to marry Johnny Cash. So most of the rest of the movie is pretty much him playing it Folsom, and that was a heck of a show.
With the yellow water and, don't sing songs that remind them that they're in prison.
You think they might have forgot?
God.
Yeah, that's great. They played at Folsom, and then they went on to their next show. That's when Johnny was finally able to convince June to marry him. And that's the end of the movie. Because this is an older movie, I really, honestly, I couldn't tell you what I had taken from the movie from back when I first saw it. I don't know that I actually did. Now, watching it now, with the kind of knowledge that I have now, I do have an active ingredient, but I will let you go first. What did you have an active ingredient in this movie? What was it?
Well, there's the whole found family thing, but I think the big one for me is you can do all kinds of horrible things, but you're a person. People make mistakes. That doesn't mean you can't change. That doesn't mean you can't grow. What matters is that you have someone, at least a person, there for you, helping you fight, getting you where you need to be, because it's hard to change alone.
Right. Something that I had kind of taken from it this time was that, you kind of have to keep in mind your ambitions. Your ambitions can become a problem, especially if you're not well mentally. Spending a lot of your time on your dreams can come at the cost of your loved ones if you're not mindful and careful. I think the reason why that kind of stuck with me this time is because that kind of seems to be a thing for me now. I spend a lot of time on my podcast, And a lot of the time I really worry about it, that like, is my podcast taking up too much of my time with Jen? And is that going to jeopardize my family? I don't know if you've noticed or not, but like, there are times that it's like, I try to curb what I do with the podcast stuff to try to do things that are a little bit, more for you and I. Even though we do the podcast stuff together, it's still not you and I stuff. It's, it's almost like a second job some of the time. This movie kind of reminds me that, you have to be careful to balance those things. And a lot of it is because of Johnny Cash and Viv, the way that he was unable to balance his dream with his family. His dream was his reality. His family was the reality that he had to wake up to and he wanted to escape from. I don't have the same feeling about my reality, which really helps.
Yes, I try and be a nice girlfriend.
I don't know. That's kind of what I took from the movie.
Well, like I said with it when we were watching it, the relationship that you put your time and effort and energy into is the relationship that grows.
Right.
And I think their problem was that there wasn't a lot of healthy conversation. It was, well, you want this, well, you don't do this. And, right. If I want time with you, I just say, hey, homie, you me sometime. Let's go. Right.
I love you.
I love you too.
Well, that's, I think we're just going to go ahead and cut it there. Because, I think we've been recording for a little over an hour now.
Yes.
I'm going to have to cut plenty of this stuff out.
Sucks to be you, I guess.
Yeah. Spending time in the editing room. Now, if you have a movie that's been medicine for you and you'd like to be on the show, you can email me at contact@movie-rx.com, or you can leave a voicemail or text me at 402-519-5790. If anxiety keeps you from coming on the show, you can write me a couple of paragraphs. You can send it in a couple of text messages, and I can read them on air for you. Remember, this movie is not intended to treat, cure, or prevent any disease, and we'll see you at the next appointment.